I can't see anybody in their right mind paying $195 an hour. It is a rich people's sport. Honestly, 195 in a lot of places in South Florida is actually, that's like almost kind of standard. I want to say Marine Max last I saw was like at 245, and there are other marinas that are above 200 an hour. It is crazy that it has gone up that much. I mean, granted, 22% inflation over the last 3-4 years. So, printing $6 trillion, that's kind of what's going to happen when you do that. But I remember when I first started, we used to think it was expensive like over a decade ago when labor rate was like $85 an hour. Then it went up to like 110, then 145, and then 165, 185. Now it's like 195. It's just progressively gotten more and more and more. I'm sure there's places up north that are still like $100 an hour, but if you can find $100 an hour for a shop, that's really cheap. When you start thinking about everything that a shop has to pay for between insurance, taxes, the property, the equipment, the employees, the products that they purchase, like everything that goes into it, there ain't a whole lot left on that bone at $100 an hour unless you're a solopreneur. But yeah, price has gone up. Must Seat says, I noticed you used a block of wood for your transom saver. With all the different options out there for transom savers, it would be nice to see a video of the pros and cons of the various options, and if a cheap block of wood is just as good as an expensive transom saver someone can buy. The block of wood isn't really a transom. It's funny because they call them transom savers. So any one of the things that you put on the engine, like on your tilt and trim unit or the block of wood or any of this stuff, don't use the little kickstand. Most engines have a kickstand on them. Don't use that if you're transporting your boat because it's going to snap off. Just the weight and here's your engine, and when you trim it up, that engine like this, if you got that little leg there, it's going to snap it right off. So don't trailer with that leg, but that's for like servicing and stuff like that. But a transom saver, the ones that go on the trim unit aren't really transom savers. It does do something. So like if you put a block of wood in there, or you put one of those rods onto your trim unit, onto the ram, and then trim it down so it's resting on that, that does take, because you've pulled the engine down and it's like wedged in there. So it kind of makes it one unit, opposed to when it's trimmed up, the end is flexing like this, putting a lot of flex on your transom, which creates stress cracks and other things in the transom. So it is kind of a transom saver, but it's still, when you put it down, you pull it down, it's locked in. Like you've got the wood, you've got your rod there, whatever. The trim unit is pulling it in, so it is locked in. So it's not as much of a flex on the transom, but really a real transom saver is going to be the ones that go down to the trailer, from your lower unit down to the trailer. So that way, as the boat goes up and down, that thing kind of absorbs the shock and like keeps the transom and the engine together, which takes that stress off of the transom, which is where you get, like if you look in the back of a transom where it curls out, like depending on how your boat is, most of them have a splash well or a wet well or a cutaway transom, whatever you got on your boat, and you look at the corners there, you'll start to see stress cracks, and that's what a lot of that is from, especially on a trailered boat, because in the water, the boat in the water kind of like everything kind of flexes and takes a lot of stress off. But whenever you are going down the road and the thing's on a trailer, it's got a lot of that weight. There's no flex there. It doesn't have the water to like cushion it. It is the boat and the engine, and it's just pulling on your transom. So it's got a lot more torque on there. It gives you stress cracks. They're really not expensive though. I don't know, what you're talking about here with an expensive transom saver. Most of them are, you can get on eBay and get a decent transom saver for 30, 40, 50 bucks. They're not, I guess when you're talking about a 2x4 that you stick in the engine, which, whatever, $5 or whatever, compared to a $40 transom saver, yeah, I guess it would be expensive. But in all honesty, that's kind of something that you buy at once, and then you've got that thing for years. As far as the different options, that's kind of what you got. You really have the ones that go to the trailer, and then everything else. Block of wood, the little rods that stick on the trim rams, those are kind of like that's it. That's really your only options. I don't know if there's anything outside of those that give you, as a.
So if you like this clip, you can watch the full podcast over here, or you can watch another clip over here.